Well, welcome back, everybody. We could probably all be doing better at developing the leaders in our workplaces and our homes. And today we're talking about that. I am interviewing my good mate, James Grafas, and we talk about some of the challenges of developing leaders, why we don't do it, what we could be doing better, and we just discuss some inspirational little stuff that we can really all just be apply at work and at home. I know that if you want to be leading better, more effectively at work and at home, you're going to love this episode. So let's get into it. Hey mate, welcome back.
Thank you.
And just for the audience who didn't miss you.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Where did you go? Because you've been traveling. Right?
I have. I went to Napa Valley, which I hadn't been to before.
Is it?
I'm just out of San Francisco.
That's not where they make nappies.
No, it's where they make wine.
Oh, yeah, baby.
Which was great, and had an all hands meeting for a company I work with there.
There's a flare fire in the Napa Valley.
Get out! Really? At a person's house, or
at a person's house?
Cool.
It was actually like a vineyard. That's right. It's a vineyard.
That's awesome. You should have told me. I could have gone and visited it.
Yes, I should have.
and then went to San Diego.
Yeah.
And in Mexico for a little bit, and then Paris.
Oh yeah.
Paris.
Mexico and Paris, they're quite similar, right?
Very similar.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then Dublin.
Why?
So the whole thing was with Linux Foundation.
Yeah.
They obviously are responsible for Linux and a whole bunch of other open source projects.
Right.
And so I was over doing some stuff with them in a company that contracts to them.
Right.
And Dublin was actually a conference, so just there was lots of people that we know at that conference, so we were meeting up with them.
Okay.
But yeah, it was really interesting, and I hadn't been to Dublin before, hadn't been to Napa before, so some new places.
That's awesome, man. Who'd you call it? I was going to say Netflix, not Netflix. Linux.
Yeah.
So what the heck do they do?
Well, so Linux obviously is. So I think over 90% of devices in the world run on some, have some form of Linux in their infrastructure. Right. So you have, Mac, Windows, Linux, but often within Windows and stuff is Linux,
right.
And servers generally run on Linux.
Right.
So the Linux Foundation is accountable or sort of keeps, holds responsibility for that technology as well as a whole bunch of new technologies that it will open source.
Right. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Had no idea.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, I just hated your Instagram posts and stuff. I think in the future when you do this, you shouldn't talk about it.
Yeah, that's fair. I think it is funny, isn't it? I mean, we could talk about social media stuff all the time, but you definitely do end up, you don't take photos of the crappy things, right?
No.
Like you take photos of the kind of high moments and the cool things that you see and stuff like that. And so I look back and just get pretty jealous of the trip that I had. So.
Yes. I was going to send you some photos of me just sitting at my desk.
Yeah. You didn't get to see 4 hours in lines at Dublin Airport and all that kind of stuff.
Why don't you do that next time?
Yeah, that's true. I should actually post nothing exciting and just post the bad stuff. Like sitting with some significant people in size on the plane back from LA, and so being half out into the aisle for the entire flight and just getting. So I got home and my wife Sarah said, you've got this massive bruise on your lower back.
Right.
How did you get that? And then I had to try and figure out whether, and I don't actually know to this day, and it was massive. Whether I got it from being repeatedly knocked in the back by the drinks trolley in the plane because I was half out into the aisle, or from falling down the stairs at a pub in Dublin. Because both happened. And
that sounds like a story in itself.
Well, I didn't spill the Guinness.
Well done. Do people drink their Guinness cold or warm in Dublin?
Cold.
They do? Okay. For some reason I thought the Irish only drink their beer lukewarm.
What was great was at the Guinness storehouse where they make Guinness, which is phenomenal to visit if anybody's in Dublin at any point. Incredible story of leadership, actually.
Right.
Arthur Guinness, he really saw a vision for the company, and people were saying, you need a big range of beers. And he said, no, just this one. It was a healthier beer than any of the others. Right. It was lower alcohol, so the intention was that people would get drunk less often, get off spirits. And so people were thinking he wouldn't succeed, but he was so confident that he signed, are you ready for it, a 9,000-year lease on the property that he has there.
Wow.
So it's under this glass in the basement of the building. 9,000. So it has 8,700 years to run. Right.
Yeah.
So 9,000 year lease on a fixed rent,
Yeah.
which is quite smart if you're signing something
Right.
in the 1700s.
Yeah. So it's like £2 a year or something.
I think it's like 45 or something. Yeah, it's amazing. And then on the top floor, they have a bar, which is incredible and looks out over Dublin. And they have Guinness taps, and then they have Guinness 0.0 taps, which is actually amazing. It's a zero alcohol Guinness. Tastes good. Has that Guinness kind of head.
Yeah.
And then they have Guinness Clear. And so the guy I was with, we got given vouchers to use to buy the drinks. So he uses his voucher to get a Guinness Clear.
Right.
And it was just water.
Oh, that's brilliant. They should bottle that.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
But it was great.
Yeah.
Just great Irish humour.
That's so good.
Baked right in.
Do you know if Guinness, was there any sort of talk or learning there around their leadership development stuff? Like, because they're very successful.
I mean, generational leadership, the business has been in the family for so long.
Yeah.
I think that always amazes me, that people can create leaders in their children. In their business, because I never really had a desire to go into the business that my dad was in, and I think that must be difficult when you have a business like Guinness and you really want your kid,
to be
to take it over, that you sort of rely on that. But then they have a lot of. I mean, Arthur Guinness, I think, had 24 kids. And 11 of them died, obviously, because that was the time.
They drank too much.
There was just that time in history.
Okay.
It was, And so I guess, if you've got 11 kids, you've got a chance that one of them will want to run the company.
Yeah. That's why I had lots of kids.
Right. Yeah. That makes sense.
Yeah, it does. Hey, it's interesting, because you probably remember the book. I don't remember which one it is. I think it's one of Jim Collins' books. Maybe where he talks about, was it Good to Great, where they study like all these different businesses that have lasted multiple generations, or like over 100 years, and they're still like succeeding on.
Or built to last.
Built to last, that'll be it. And one of the key factors there is their leadership development. It's actually that they haven't gone and employed their CEOs from outside, they've come from within. I just think that's fascinating. It's kind of the main question I wanted to put to both of us today, I guess, was how do leaders do that well? And what stops us from doing it better? So what do you think? I mean, from your experience, you're a HR guy, you had your own business and stuff. What do you see as the opportunities and the gaps and the issues?
I probably have some quite strong views, I guess, on leadership development. I would say, and this has been a challenge to me, in my roles in the past, is I would almost say if someone's not developing leaders around them, then I'd question whether they're leading.
Yep.
I don't know that leadership can exist without recreating itself. What do you think? Do you think?
Yeah, I think that's true. But I think it's really convicting and really hard. I was thinking about it in terms of flair, because when you're busy, when things are pumping like it, through COVID, the government just flooded the economy with money, and it's just, we've all been on the sugar high, and we've all been trying to catch up. So you're just trying to employ people left, right, and centre. You're not really thinking about developing people. You're just trying to keep up. And I think maybe now that things are looking softer into the future, that it's actually a good time to start to develop the talent. But of course, then you're thinking, you think about costs and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's always that challenge of, do I invest? Do I make space to develop talent, or do you just run the place lean?
Well, it's funny because so you'd have to say that the best business outcomes come from developing people. I think the short term, savings potentially from investing in just mindless production pretty outweighed pretty quickly. And again, just come down to that built to last. I mean, those businesses just aren't built to last. You mentioned when you flicked me an email the other day about potential kind of talking about leadership development.
Yeah.
You mentioned people in businesses feeling like there isn't a focus on their development, essentially. People, I guess, who you would say have an ambition for leadership or a desire to be leaders but aren't getting that opportunity.
Yes.
Who are they and what businesses? No, I'm just kidding.
Yes. Cool.
When I hear that,
yeah,
I think the thing that makes me sad about that is, and I'll caveat this by saying, I'm involved in a number of businesses, and I'm sure that that across those businesses there are a number of areas in which people are wanting development that they're not getting.
Right.
And I think that's a challenge for me at a governance level and for the leadership teams to keep developing in that area. But I would say what's sad about it is that I actually think, and I'm interested to know whether you would agree with this, I actually think that the leader should have a more ambitious vision for the future of their people than those people even have for themselves. So when I hear that somebody has an ambitious view for, vision for their future as a leader, and they're not getting, they don't seem to feel that coming back to them from their leaders or from the people running their organizations, I'd go like, the tragedy there is that I think the organization or the leader should have an even brighter view of their future than they can have. So Erwin McManus, when he was at Curate or Mosaic a few years ago visiting, I remember he talked about leadership for like an hour, and I was kind of following, and it was kind of just all over the place and stuff. And then, he's amazing, but then at the end he just goes, leadership really is seeing more in another person and then calling it out of them and refusing to allow them to be less. And I was like, that's it, right?
Totally is, and I agree with everything you've said. I think we've got to have a brighter view. What confounds me sometimes is when I think of specific individuals that I want to develop, there are often other people on my team, my management team, my leadership team, that are pointing out all the reasons, all the negative things in those people. And it might be a particular character flaw or an incident that happened once, or it's all just speaking to a lack of trust in that person. And I find that really hurtful for that person, but I'm also trying to be wise about it.
Hey, you've got Apple things coming today. That's exciting.
I do. I ordered some AirPods. I should have that phone on vibrate. It is on vibrate.
You should, but then you wouldn't know that your delivery was coming today.
No, that's awesome.
Congratulations.
Is it saying they're here? It's
saying, look, today's the day.
All right.
Items in your order will be delivered today.
Oh, that's brilliant. Good on you, Apple. Must be, is it Linux?
No. Well, they're in bed together.
Sexy. Okay. So back to, I think there's plenty of reasons, because, the moment I'm talking about, and we had this conversation this week where we've got I've got such a good team at Flair at the moment. I want to, even in a hard time, keep my team. So I've got to I'm looking at other opportunities to add other bits to the business. And I'm thinking of people that could do those bits. But everyone's saying, nah, those people aren't ready, which they're not. But how do I make them ready?
Okay, so but that's so that's where it's your job, right? Because you can't, as a leader, you can't rely on everybody seeing what you see.
No.
So and this, we've talked in a previous podcast about 20 something years ago at a wedding where you encouraged me and said that you saw something in the way I was communicating.
I have glasses now. So I see clearly.
You would have where you thought I could do something, and you unlocked something in me.
Yeah.
If people who were working with me at that point in time had been there to hear you say that, they would have gone like, that's rubbish. You know, like he doesn't even do a good job of the job that he's doing.
Yeah.
But that doesn't make what you saw any less true, hopefully. And so I think, if you think about, let's say that if you believe in a God, or you believe in the universe, or whatever, something bigger than yourself, then I think as a leader, when a leader's doing the most incredible job, they're seeing things that other people can't see.
Yeah.
Right. So they're seeing a vision for the business, they're seeing a vision for people.
Yeah.
So the fact that other people can't see it is actually irrelevant. If you can see it, you can call it out.
And that's a fascinating example you give, where there was a powerful moment for you that I was almost.
That you don't ever remember.
I was completely oblivious to. I remember it, but I was oblivious to how powerful it was. Yeah. But I remember the same thing happening to me. I remember a gentleman by the name of Bill Bracks. He's dead now. His wife actually just died just a few weeks back. One of the most influential men in my lives. He was advising Convita at the time. And I remember he walked into the room and he called me out. He basically said, because I was a storeman, and he was saying, hey, by the age of 30, you're going to be earning this amount of money. You can be doing this job. And he challenged me on a few things, but him saying that made me, all of a sudden, I stepped up my game. I sort of laid aside some of the stuff that I was mucking around with, and I thought different, and it was a wake-up call.
Yeah.
And I wonder whether that's a big part of leadership development.
Yeah.
It's just those powerful moments where someone just says something.
Totally. And I think recognizing, one of the things he did, and that I think is important, is recognizing the weight of your words and the power they have to transform.
Right.
Because, when you become a leader, and anyone listening to this who's on a journey of becoming a leader or whatever, I don't think you realize as you go through roles or as you go into different positions and things like that, or even just as you get older, that your words mean more, that they carry more weight, but they do. And so I think recognizing that they carry weight both helps us to not use them recklessly in an emotional moment or whatever, when we're frustrated or a frustrated moment, use them in a destructive way. But it helps us really intentionally try and look for things that we can call out in people and actually call them out.
Wow.
And then be there to support those things to actually happen. And sometimes largely that's about actually giving people opportunities. It's about empowering. A couple of things I learned in my time. So I spent, 14 years in one company at Agoge, and
Agoge is an HR company.
Yeah,
right?
and I was really lucky to go from a salesperson to CEO over that time, and a lot of that was because Andrew Nicol, who owns Agoge, continued to give me opportunities.
Yeah,
but I had to do the same for others, and a lot of people talk about empowerment, empowering people. It took me a long time to realize that if I often felt like I was empowering someone, so I was like, oh yeah, good. But what I'd actually been doing is delegating.
Right.
And I think there's a difference. So delegating's great. People should delegate. But empowering, like when I delegate something to you, I still feel like I'm in charge. I feel like I have the power over that thing. When I empower you, if I truly empower you, there is a little bit of a sense of like, in me, like I've lost control of it. I've lost power over it because I've actually genuinely given it to you. And that feeling of responsibility. And so one of the things Andrew Nicol used to say was, he used to say, you need to stop delegating tasks and start delegating responsibilities. And when you delegate a responsibility to somebody, you actually give them an opportunity to become a leader because they hold responsibility for that thing. And he had this other thing he used to say, which was, this is becoming the Andrew Nicol show. You should interview him. You really should. Just get this stuff straight from the source.
Yeah, that's right.
Was 51-100, which was I'll give you 51% of the say in this if you take 100% of the responsibility.
Right.
And so, 51% means I have 49%. So you're still going to talk to me, but you get to make the call.
Yeah, but you see, okay, I'm listening, I'm hearing, but what I'm feeling, and I think a lot of people are probably feeling as they're listening to this, is because I've got a guy in mind, I'm thinking I need that guy to step up into this new thing, but I know I just can't throw him at it. I know I just can't give him the responsibility because he's completely blind to what needs to be done. There's a whole bunch of stuff he needs to learn. And so I'm actually putting someone around him who's actually going to walk with him on the journey for a while. It's not going to be me because I don't know how to do that job either, but someone else does, and they're going to be with them. So I guess that's the way we can't just throw people at a thing. We can't give them responsibility without them having the skill to get it done.
Totally. And I think that's about how you hand it to them, right? Like, if I was to stand across the room from you, what are those big, heavy exercise medicine balls?
I've never been No, I have. But
You know what I mean? Eh? Those really big.
why do they call them medicine balls?
I don't know.
Is it good medicine or?
Well, I don't know.
No.
Yeah, I don't know.
Oh, anyway, what are you talking about?
So if I was to like get one of those big heavy medicine balls and throw it across the room to you and go, hey,
catch that.
Mike, take this. You know, you may catch it. It may knock you over. You may struggle to catch it and drop it.
Yeah.
Right. So the appropriate way to hand you a medicine ball is actually to walk over to you and hold it while you put your arms around it and let you take the weight. And once I know that you've got the weight, then I let go.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think what you're doing, what you're describing is the wise way to hand over something. But what a lot of leaders don't do is realize when that actually has happened. When that weight transfer has happened, so they keep holding on to the thing that the other person's trying to hold. And so I think, you know, the appropriate way to start is what you're doing, and it's just recognizing when it is that person needs to run on their own.
So there's a few things there I think it's worth just talking about one a little bit more before we move on. But yeah, that transfer is important. Where we're actually giving them some training, some skills, and what have you. So there's an intentionality there, and not, but not handing over. So actually letting go once they've got it, but also probably maybe the person never learns to handle that weight, and then recognizing that as well. So there's got to be some system in our leadership development where we're going, no, actually, you know, we've tried you in this space, this is not working, so let's. What other support can we give you? So I'm thinking, because that's the barrier I see where I mentioned of this particular person who's very practical, who needed to go into this very practical role, but the role also has a whole bunch of admin around it. And I know they're not going to do that. I just know right now they're not the type of person that would build the admin skills.
Yeah.
And so my management team is saying, no, it's not going to work. We need someone who can do all the physical and they can do all the admin. They're just going to be the perfect all-rounded person. Yeah. Right. And I'm saying, no, we're not going to find that person. Yeah. We just got to work out how to put admin support around that person.
Sure.
And once you start talking about that, you go, oh yeah, actually this other person in the business can provide all the admin support. There's no drama. And they probably want a bit more work as well, a bit more responsibility in that. So we've got to think about not trying to create these all-rounded, perfect people.
Yeah.
And I think part of the challenge there, gosh, it's me talking too much now, but...
No, it's good.
Because I look at myself and we as leaders, we look at ourselves and go, oh yeah, I can do this and I can do that and I can do that. And so we're looking for people that can do everything we can do.
Yeah.
When actually maybe it's 3 or 4 people or 2 or 3.
Oh, totally. And recognizing that all of those people can likely do things you can't.
Exactly.
And so I think one of the biggest realizations as a leader is getting to a point where you realize that other people are not a failed attempt to be you.
Yes.
They are their own person.
Yeah.
And they have a different set of strengths and weaknesses and skills. And it is funny because otherwise what ends up happening is that the weaknesses of an organization end up looking a lot like the leader.
Right.
And
yes, totally.
So the organization seems to, you know, the leader's really strong in operations, but they're not great with relationships. Right? Yeah. So then the organization continually burns through customers and has to get new ones. Yeah. But it's, you know, really efficient.
Yeah. That's right.
Or the other way around. Yeah. You know, it's incredibly good at selling and building relationships and keeping them going, but doesn't deliver well. You know, all those sorts of things. So, I mean, ideally, I don't want an organization that looks like me. I want an organization that looks like the combined talents of a team. Yeah. Right. And so it becomes my job as a leader to unlock them. Yeah. You know, and like we were saying before, to have a more ambitious view. So I was sitting with Alana yesterday, who works with me. Alana's worked with me for 14 years, 15 years in the previous company and now in my own business. Yeah. And I see far more for what Alana can be into the future than Alana can currently see. Yeah. I don't think she'd mind me saying that. Right. Because she's kind of goes you're just saying that she needs to get better. She's amazing at what she does. But she, you know, I mean, and she probably doesn't want to be a CEO, but she could totally be a CEO. Yeah. You know, she could be a business owner, successful business owner. And I think actually this speaks a little bit to one of the core things about leadership development, which is that there's a really good chance. Excuse me.
That's the Dublin COVID.
Yeah, that's right. There's a really good chance that a person's not going to be able to achieve their entire leadership journey in your organization. Now, they might be able to. So it does happen.
Yeah.
But if I look at Agoge, I had a number of strong leaders coming through that organization, and only a certain number of top-level leadership roles, you know. And so I look around now, and a number of the people that worked for me and reported to me have gone off and are leading organizations and have become, really honestly, I was saying this to you before we started, but have actually become better leaders, more effective leaders than I ever was at an organizational level. And so for me, I see that as not as a failure to keep them engaged at Agoge, but as, and I know Andrew's the same in terms of how he views Agoge, but as a success in Agoge having the ability to create an environment for leaders to grow, you know, and to then have them go into other organizations. So, you know, so I think retention is really, really good. But, you know, and this is about who it's for. So if I'm developing leaders for my organization, then it's a failure when they leave in some ways. If I'm developing leaders because that's what leaders do, they develop leaders, right? Then it's a win when they leave if they're going to the next opportunity that helps them continue to grow.
Yeah. So you don't want that person to be the best general manager of of your business. You want them to be the best individual they can be.
Totally.
And that they might half-heartedly or do that job a little bit well in your business, but that's just part of that journey of them becoming who they are.
And ironically, if they feel that, if they can feel that your passion is for them and their development as a leader, then they actually end up staying longer. Yeah. Because we want to be around the person who helps us grow.
Yeah. Man, I just want to bring this to family for a second. And probably one of the moments in my life that I regret the most with one of my daughters, where I compared her to a sister. So it was a real shameful moment, shameful for me, and it was shameful for her because her older sister was just so helpful around the house and would do this and do that, and my daughter wasn't doing that stuff, and there was some other stuff going on, and I compared. I said, you need to be more like, you know. I don't know if I said those exact words, but I made it very clear I was comparing her to her sister, and I've had to deal with that with her in terms of asking for forgiveness and stuff, and it's still, even so, that still, even recently, it still lays on her a bit heavy, and I've had to come back again and go, hey, I really cocked that up. I don't think like that. And I've had to work on it. Yeah. I've had to really work on it because there was a part of me at the time that felt that. But actually now she just needs to become the best her. And what I wasn't seeing in her was what she could become, which is not a sister. It's someone completely different with a whole bunch of a much different view of the world. Yeah. And was just with so many strengths. But I think we can, with our kids, we can get this stuff wrong too so easily. Yeah. When we're not seeing the talent and the leadership capability in our kids, and we're not calling that out.
And that's releasing something, right? So it's not trying to replicate yourself. No. Like, gosh, I don't want to replicate myself. I don't want to send children into the world who are just carbon copies of me. No. I hope that they can learn from me, you know.
Yeah. And I think, sorry, just to pause there, I think that was part of the issue, because the older sister probably reflected my parts of me that I was liking, and the younger sister was just very different, and I wasn't valuing that.
Yeah, and so I think, you know, I mean, the job of a leader is releasing what is in that person, not trying to change. Yeah. And I think you're right. Like, that is what we learn as a parent. You know, my daughter is quite a lot different to me. So my son is he probably wouldn't want to hear this, but he has some similarities to me. He reminds me a little bit of me.
Poor guy.
Yeah, that's fair. And he, and so I kind of understand I understand a lot of how he thinks about things.
Yeah.
I find it harder to understand how my daughter thinks about things. But I love trying to understand. And, and I think, my job is certainly not to try and turn her into somebody more like me. It's to discover, who she has been uniquely created to be, which will be a really, significant gift to the world. And I think the more that we can walk around in our job, in our life, and our jobs as we grow and embrace who we are and the shape of who we are, and try and lead from that position, lead from who we are, the better. The worst leader I've ever been has been in the moments where I've tried to be someone else. People used to sometimes hate when I came back from a conference, because I'd come back and be like, here's how we're going to do things, and like some prescribed thing that I've found somewhere else. And it's great to learn from others, but man, we really need to take a minute and put it through the lens of how we actually are.
So we need to find our voice as a leader.
Yeah.
All right. Not try to lead from someone else's voice. And I think with our kids, like with my daughter, I need to be calling out her unique voice.
Yeah.
So when we're struggling to see the good, what I know I need to do with my daughter is there's some bits that her that are just so brilliant, that are just so different to me, and I just need to call those out.
Yeah.
And we need to do that at work, and just take those moments, those powerful moments where the words are spoken. And
some of that is going like, we can definitely make mistakes and say things at times and then realize later they're bad. But, is to go like, I'm so glad you're not just like your sister. Like, I'm so glad that you're different, because how boring would the world be? Yeah. If we were all the same. And I think like if we look at, if we think that, if we take the worldview of something like, from a Christian worldview, it's like then humans have the image of God. And so we don't really even see the fullness of who the creator is unless we look at creation. And so every different person in their different shape and different way reflects some part of the image of God. And so it's a new way to discover the world, a new way to discover who we all are together, you know. And organizations are such a great example of that, where we can see so many different shapes of how we work. Character is the core of all of that. And I think that's the part that, like, if I lead someone to become a good executor, and maybe even to get people to do things, getting people to do things. So leadership, leadership is two things. I think it's developing leaders and it's getting things done through other people. Yeah. Right. So it's not getting things done. It's getting things done through other people. Yeah. If I manage to get you to do things, right, we can call that leadership, or we can call that manipulation. Right. Because by definition, manipulation is when you get people to do things. Yeah. And so the difference is, why am I getting you to do it? And for whose benefit? So if it's for all of our benefit and it's because I care about you, then that's leadership. Yeah. If it's for my benefit because I care about me, then potentially that's manipulation. Yeah, yeah. So I think motivation becomes everything. And so I don't want to grow someone who's really good at getting people to do things if I'm not at the same time helping them grow their character so that they're doing that for the right reason. Yeah. So character becomes a really central part of developing a leader. Yeah. And I think when I'm back to those powerful moments in my life where people have said stuff, it caused me to do two things. It caused me to work on my character. Yeah. And go, the wake-up call, I need to be better. And that's instantly I saw some character stuff in my world I needed to fix. But then there was also some study, and that launched me, that Bill Bracks moment launched me into 6 years of study, changed my life. Wouldn't have done it otherwise. So there is learning that needs to be done as well. But I agree that leaders that don't have the character, people that don't have character can't, if they're not prepared to work on their character, then they really can't grow. Well, and that's right. How do you read character? Like, how do you, I guess, read character in yourself, but how do you help others to see how they're developing a character level? Oh, I don't know how to answer that, except that, we look at people and all we see is the character flaws. I think I see those quicker than I see the good stuff. Are they trustworthy? Do they have anger issues? Are they reliable? And I often feel like we just need to tell people, well,
Sometimes we actually, if they
what
don't
you
see it,
Yeah.
we need to help them see it.
Yeah. Yeah. Somebody used to say to me, like, and I don't know if I agree with this but necessarily, but the character is what you look like when you're put in a corner.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's some truth to that. You know, it's not when you're comfortable, it's when you're under pressure.
Yeah.
What do you like when you're under pressure? You know, I remember there's a lot of bad moments for me as a leader, but I remember one of the ones where I felt the weakest and the least capable of leading was I had, I think four people like in my leadership team that were in the office with me, and it was a cool office, like couches. So sitting on the couches, and I just felt more and more pressure in the meeting because I guess if I'm really honest, thinking back now, I felt critiqued.
Right.
And I was feeling critiqued from it. I was already in a weak position, and so I wasn't taking feedback and discussing it and trying to make the business better. I was trying to defend myself.
Right.
Anyway, this moment came eventually where I actually said, well, as long as I'm CEO, that's the way it's going to be.
Right. Okay.
And
I've heard worse things said.
But it was funny because they all just looked at me like I thought in that moment, it felt like there's some false strength in that of like, here's the boundary, you know. But they all looked at me like that was weak, you know, and it was. But that moment was so coming out of my insecurities rather than out of my confidence or desire for us to do good things together, you know. And I think for me that's probably been, and I would say this applies to other leaders too. Like one of the insecurities has been probably the cause of a bunch of mistakes.
Wouldn't that be the main reason why leaders don't develop other leaders?
Insecurity could be too,
They're just too busy thinking about themselves. You know, their own issues. They've got they can have a hard day at work and go home and it's just full of chaos at home as well. And so life is hard and it's busy and it's messed up and we're trying to defend ourselves or trying to, you know, we're not even thinking that the person across the room has this hidden talent that needs to be called out.
Yeah, and I think you know, being honest with ourselves, and for all of us being honest about what success looks like. Yeah. Success is not big. Success is not significance. It's not any of that stuff. And I think it's really important to know that. So for some people, they're only going to be successful if they end up running a 5,000 person organization because that's something that they have in them. Yeah. Right. That's not me.
So you're saying because they're gifted for that.
Yeah, they're gifted for that. Yeah. That's not me. No. So having a large team was always really uncomfortable for me the whole time. And some of that is because I'd meet people and then I wouldn't remember their name next time I saw them. And that speaks to them that I don't value them, but I actually deeply valued them. I just couldn't retain things like that. Yeah. So for me, I'm happy to have a small amount of influence with a small group of people. And some of those people lead lots of people because they're gifted for that. Right. Cool. But, and I think that's been the interesting journey. And I'm interested in yours too because both of us have worked in larger organizations than we do now. Yep, totally. Me significantly, my organization is 2. But we've worked in larger organizations than we do now, and we could have followed the continued path in that direction. More and more people, more and more size, more and more scale. But we haven't. Why haven't you?
Yeah, don't know. I love what I love the most in Flair and in Hapai Whānau is that I'm getting to create the culture, creating a place that I want to be, and where everyone can turn up and relax and be themselves and be safe, but we can also just do some friggin' awesome stuff. I don't know if that's even, to me that feels harder the bigger the organisation gets. Yes. So I don't know that I could do that with 5,000 people. Yeah. There'll be leaders that do it every day. Yeah. Yeah. And they're amazing, but I don't know. I don't think I could do it. So that's probably why. Yeah. And it makes me think back to these people that you mentioned that were talking to me I emailed you. I said, hey, a couple of guys.
Yeah.
I see these guys as potential future big leaders, and they're just feeling like they're not being seen.
Yeah.
That their leadership talent is not being valued, and they're in bigger organisations.
Yeah.
And is it the distance? Is it that the CEO isn't seeing it? That he's just so many layers removed? And is it that the layers haven't been trained to see the talent, or that this insecurity is just handed down, or what?
Yeah. So, and like this is something I struggled with, at a CEO level, and I'm sure you do too. But I would recommend to anybody watching this, listening to this, that 5 Levels of Leadership by John Maxwell.
Yeah.
Really, really worth reading.
Yeah.
At the core is this pyramid of kind of leadership, and the starting point is people are led by you, and I'd question whether they're even led by you, but people follow you because of your role.
Yeah, that's right.
So you're the manager,
Yeah.
so they follow you.
Yeah.
The next level is that people follow you because of what you do for the organization.
Yeah.
So you get good results.
Right.
So they're like,
Yep.
okay, I'll follow that guy.
Yep.
So they're not following you just because your role anymore. So that's a win.
Yeah.
The next level after that is that people follow you because of what you've achieved or helped them achieve.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The next level after that is that they follow you because you're helping them develop into a leader. And the final step, the 5th level is the level where you're developing leaders who are who are level 5 leaders.
Wow.
Right. And so if I look at an organization where the CEO, most CEOs I know genuinely want to grow their people.
Yeah.
If I look at that organization and I go like 3 levels down, people aren't growing. What that tells me is that leader may well be a level 4 leader. So they may well be growing the crap out of the people below them, right?
Yeah.
Their senior team, maybe even the team below that.
Yeah.
But they're not a level 5 leader because a level 5 leader is growing level 5 leaders. So their SLT becomes, their senior leadership becomes a team of level 5 leaders.
Yeah.
And they can only be level 5 leaders. Because level 5 is that you're growing level 5 leaders.
Yeah.
They can only be level 5 leaders if they're growing level 5 leaders.
Wow.
So if you find an organization where the CEO is a level 5 leader, by definition, all the way down the organization is level 5 leaders, and then you don't find anybody who's not being grown.
Yeah.
Right? But if the leader is a level 4, which is probably as high as I ever got, really, if the leader is a level 4, then they're growing the people in proximity to them, like you said.
Yeah.
But where there's distance, it's a roll of the dice.
Yeah.
So somewhere down the organization, if there's 100, 120 people in the organization, somewhere down the organization, your experience is just basically the result of the randomness of how good your leader is, how much they care. It's not the structure doesn't support that experience. You just are at the mercy of whatever leader you end up reporting to.
So what would you say then to the guy or girl that is sitting inside of a big organisation, feeling like their unique voice, their unique talent hasn't been called out there?
I have an answer to this.
Yeah, tell me, man.
I talk to a lot of people like that.
Yeah.
My advice is always the same, which is the core thing you need to do is make sure that you are the leader that you wish your leader was.
Wow.
Because typically the person who's feeling that way, most times, they have staff.
Yes.
They're already a leader.
Yep.
Right? I am amazed at how often somebody can really clearly articulate the failures of their leader.
Yeah.
But not clearly articulate where they're growing as a leader. So if I'm frustrated with the lack of clarity, with the lack of growth opportunities, with the lack of conversation about my future, with the about my leader, I better be doing that with my team.
Wow.
Now, I've watched over and over, I'm sure you have too, the people who do that, who turn around, they stop looking up with frustration and they start looking down with determination to grow people.
Yeah.
Somehow their career
takes off. I think we should finish on that. I think we could keep going for another session or two, but I think we should stop there. That's a really good point. And I think that's a powerful message to those people that are sitting in an organisation wanting to grow, is just and struggling with the leadership, is to actually look at their own leadership.
Be the leader you want to have.
Be the leader they want to be, yeah. Wow, that's good. So that's powerful. I think we can all be challenged just to remember the power of those powerful moments when leaders saw the talent in us, called out our own unique voice, our own unique talent. Just remember the power of that. Maybe just to be a little bit, we talked about being a little bit less insecure and actually shifting the focus from ourselves to the people in our business. That's good stuff, man. Is there anything else we talked about? If we, in finishing, what would be the one thing you would say to the dads listening from everything we've talked about today? What would you like to reiterate?
I think I'd say you're doing great. One of the things that blows me away about being a dad is that we often operate from a position of insecurity and knowing our own failures. Every dad you see that you think is smashing it has their own failures, including the ones at this table.
Yeah.
And yet, if you love your children, you care for your children, and you focus on the best for them, not how you feel about how good a dad you are.
Yeah. Right.
Then you'll get a good outcome.
Yeah.
And you'll have a relationship with your kids, and that's the core outcome is that you have influence over the long term. My dad still has influence. I mean, I'm 40 years old, and sometimes I work in businesses that are bigger than he ever ran. But I like when he tells me that I am making a good decision or doing something well.
Wow.
He's gained that influence by being a loving dad, and one that was focused on my good.
Powerful, man. Thank you, James. I'm glad you picked yourself up off the floor in Dublin and made your way back to New Zealand.
I said when I got to the bottom of the stairs, I looked up quite embarrassingly at the people that were down at that level, and I was like, oh gosh, that's embarrassing. And they're like, don't worry, it's been happening all night. I was like, so it was the stairs that were the problem.
The stairs. Was that a Guinness clear that you had in your hand?
No, it wasn't. It was a full Guinness, which is good because they're nice and thick on the top, so you can actually. I didn't spill.
Good job.
Awesome. Yeah.
Oh, maybe I'll have to enjoy Guinness with you, mate. At some point.
I'd love that.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's go drink now.
Let's take this show on the road.
Oh gosh, terrible. All right, mate. Thanks again. We'll see you next time.
Cool. See you.
Cheers.
Thanks.